in full.
Are we all set? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of McCandless Planning Commission, May 7, 2024 meeting. Looks like we have 3 items on the agenda. And we'll get kicked off with the first item, which is Legacy Life conditional use application, which is warehouse distribution, packing and crating and warehousing and storage in the MC district on Perry Highway. So is there a presentation for that plan?
We have a couple people here, it seems. I'll tee it up. So,
Okay,
this is our second conditional use application that we have coming in under the new code. This one is actually a distribution use under the warehouse distribution umbrella category. From what we understand, it's a pretty small scale distribution situation. However, this is, you know, it's a conditional use, that's where it falls under the code. So they're here. From what I understand, the business has some space in the building already for other uses, yes?
Yes, we have
Why don't you guys come on up, yeah. And introduce yourself for the minutes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Don Carter. I serve as the Vice President of Operations for Legacy Lab Distribution.
Do you mind just spelling your-
Yeah, Donald Carter, Carter. We are a new LLC formed in November of last year. The distribution center is going to be part of the 9,000 Perry Highway building, which is Legacy Life Medical Centers, which serves as chiropractic, physical therapy, and sports medicine. So the portion of the second floor of that building, which is being unused now, is what we're requesting to convert to distribution space. Now, our distribution operation is not what we would think of as a large scale distribution. We're made up of we sell a non-biologic material for either research and development, cosmetic use, and for a lot of our collaborators around the area and across the country. So we produce our own material through another LLC, which is in Colorado. And this space would then be used as our distribution. And the reason why we have a separation between our lab and distribution is we are both regulated both through state and federal agencies such as the FDA. And so the distribution arm serves separate. But what we will be producing and selling are vials that are no bigger than one cc of fluid. We produce probably a few thousand of those in a month, which takes up shipping boxes, maybe 4 to 5 shipping boxes of about 15 by 15 cubic feet, or cubic inches, sorry. So we're not really storing a lot of large, we're not planning on shipping a lot of large material here. It's just more a couple of days a week, FedEx overnight trucks will arrive, and then according to our clients, we will ship those out individually to. Typically, they buy vials between 1 to 100 vials at a time, which all fit in the same size box. So we're not looking for. So when we say distribution, we're really just packaging and shipping from the laboratory here. Inventory control will take place in this location, and then our client-facing team would be here.
And I had a couple, discussions with them, figuring out how to classify these over the last few months. And from what I understand, at some point you may be expanding a lab facility to this location. If that was something that they had been doing in tandem, this would have been an accessory use to the lab and not required. It's of a small enough scale that it would not have required to be treated like its own use if it was attached to an active lab. At this time, it's not. This is the primary use of that space.
You just said a laboratory. The laboratory's not in the building now?
Yeah, so we purchased a laboratory in Colorado, but we're related to Legacy Medical Center. We're an off-branch LLC. The lab was, and then when we bought the lab there, it was determined that it's easier to use a distribution center that's a separate entity, just for our own regulatory control. So we utilized the building that we already own here and McCandless that's what we would like to use for our distribution center. What really hardware wise, we will have up to, we're starting much smaller than this, but we can up to 20 ultra low freezer units that will hold all of our samples, and then just packing and receiving material. It's a very simple operation. Now, the building itself, as you mentioned about the laboratory here in Pittsburgh, as we expand, the building itself has an empty some empty space on the first ground floor level that could very well serve as an expansion to the project in Colorado.
I'm still not quite understanding. So the
Sure.
vials are gonna come in
Yes.
from the laboratory.
Yes, we'll produce
You're
them.
gonna somehow break them down into other other shipping.
So we'll
crates?
bulk ship from the laboratory to distribution, and then from there, depending upon client orders, we would just be taking samples out of each box. So boxes hold about 100 samples. But usually our clients will order up to 5, 10 at a time. So we'll just be unpacking and repacking
And
there.
FedEx is doing all of the distribution,
Yes.
you're not,
Yes.
You-
FedEx,
you-
we're using
your
just
vehicles
FedEx,
or
yes.
whatever.
Everything's shipped overnight on dry ice, so we do have just small packages that we send each time. They weigh up to about 15 pounds total. We're not moving anything very large.
And your
You-
customers, or, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
your customers are individuals or businesses?
We have, right now, our individuals are clinicians. We do cosmetic and non-cosmetic medications for wound healing. Creams such as, for wrinkle creams, things like that. Also, we do produce some medical testing reagents. So right now, we're selling to clinics, but as we grow, because the laboratory and distribution are sort of growing entities at the same time, then we're looking forward to make new partnerships that might be larger scale manufacturers that might buy, a few thousand vials at a time instead of a few in the tens or twenties. But we're still looking at a range of, the same sort of what we produce in the lab will be produced in fairly real time because they do have expiration dates. So we don't hold a lot at any given time, and it can be produced pretty quickly.
And you're gonna come-
So you're not doing any added value process to the vials when they come in?
Not when they come into distribution, no, because we will sell it, our laboratory sells at cost to distribution.
But you don't physically do anything to the
No,
vials?
they won't-
You're
they won't
just
be
moving
opened.
from package to package.
The only time, if anything, ever we would do outside of sales would just be for if there was a lot testing, but that would be sent. Or sent off to us.
So here's my question. You have 3 floors. You're gonna use one for distribution. What are the first and third floors? Are they still sports, wellness? They're all tore up and the place is only open 2 days a week out of 7. Most of it is in Cannonsburg, I understand.
Right, so the sports medicine on the third floor is still active. They're in the process of hiring more chiropractors to keep that open 5 days a week. So right now we've gone down to 2 days a week, but they are keeping that as the medical center on the third floor. The second floor, half of the space is what could have been used as medical space, but we decided to convert to distribution. There's another sort of half to it that's just conference room area. And then the bottom floor is unrenovated.
And if you were gonna expand into lab services, where would that go?
We would ideally use the bottom floor.
So let me just ask this general question. We're being asked to do a conditional use of this building, this site, I think. With 1 floor being a distribution facility and 2 floors being a non-medical facility. Is that
It's an
what,
office.
yeah, is that what, do we do that? Do we
It's-
approve a floor or is it, what are we approving? The building as a distribution center? Or the floor as a distribution center?
The
So-
use. Go ahead.
Yes, so the.
Yeah, yes, I know, but which
The-
one?
I'm answering,
Okay, go ahead.
you're approving the use as presented. Well, excuse me, town council would be approving it. We're a recommending body. But as with previous conditional use applications, if one of the things, a recommended condition of approval be no expansion of this use beyond the second floor without further approval or, something like that. That's certainly something that could be suggested. This is what they're proposing right now. Realistically, I guess without any sort of restriction, you would be approving the whole site for distribution, and warehousing. But again, if that's a concern that it's gonna expand beyond like what's being described here, then there are conditions that could be suggested to, sort of limit the scope. without-
Well, my question is, though, if you approve the whole site as a distribution, it may have other requirements that we're not.
More
particularly-
loading and different size.
Yeah, they're looking at right now.
Right, so that's what I'm saying is that like this is an appropriate line of discussion to understand sort of where it's going and whether or not you all would want to recommend any sort of like review condition if it were to expand or a threshold or something like that.
Okay, and let me ask some questions that you may or may not be able to answer, and I'll focus on a couple areas. One, who Legacy Life is, who owns it. Two, the diesel fuel tank, the 1,470 gallon tank that's in the back that doesn't seem to be within the state specs of that size tank. I had one other one, but those two are good. Oh, and there seemed, to me, when I looked at this, one of the reasons when I saw it, there was a sign in the back that said, beware of excess FCC radio frequency levels. Because that on the roof, they got significant microwave or radio frequency towers. So I'd like someone to just talk about that.
Yeah, no, yeah, my name's Jim Gallick. I represent the building owner as well, which is Matina Realty.
Which is who?
Matina Realty is the building owner, and they share common ownership with Legacy Life.
And so I'd like you to expand on that because Matina, as I understand, is in a significant lawsuit with Berkeley. If I got the name right, on the ownership of that building. Because and Legacy Life, I'm not sure Legacy Life Distribution, if this is part of that lawsuit. My understanding is Matina sold that Legacy Medical Centers to Fountain Life. And the lease for this building at 9,000 was supposed to go to Fountain Life. Now, it's a big disagreement of that lease goes and who owns what. So who is asking, what is the status of that? Who is asking for the permit here? And is this Legacy Life Distribution, who is it owned by?
Legacy Life Distribution is owned by Dr. Matthew Burnett.
Who's the VP of operations of Fountain Life?
No, no longer. The Fountain Life.
That's what I want you to talk
No,
about.
the Fountain Life was a management company that was managing Legacy Medical Centers under the name of Fountain Life. That relationship is dissolved.
So Berkeley does not own the building now. That whole lawsuit is done.
No, the lawsuit's not done yet. The lawsuit started with Mr. Burnett had a non-binding agreement with Berkeley to sell that property. And he never did sell the building to Berkeley. So Berkeley was suing Matina Realty, the owner of the building. And then being that Mr. Berkeley's attorney seen that there were some ownership ties between Matina Realty and Legacy, and at the time Fountain Life, they decided to bring Fountain Life into the lawsuit. And that litigation is still ongoing and is unresolved.
So can Berkeley eventually end up in the building and this company be a tenant of Berkeley and instead of Matina and not a part of Fountain Life?
Yeah, Fountain Life is no longer a part of any of the entities any longer. That was dissolved back in 2000 and that was dissolved back in late 2022, I believe.
And part of the lawsuit, as I understand it, was Berkeley was going to buy the building from Matina. Matina merged with Fountain Life, and that lease on the 9,000 building was supposed to go to Fountain, but Fountain had said that lease is not part of our agreement. And Berkeley wanted a renegotiation.
Okay, we're really getting into.
I know, I'm just trying to see
The town is not a-
who we're dealing with.
Well, let's just put this out there in general, regardless of any lawsuits, which I feel obligated to state the town takes no official position on. Use is not tied to owner of business or building. So whether it's a permitted use, a conditional use, special exception, or all of the above, the use is what's being approved, not the owner of the business.
But that. But the owner of the, okay, let me think about this. Go ahead, keep moving.
No, I mean, that's
Okay.
what we just, when the town reviews zoning applications and use applications, we do not take any sort of preferential opinion as to who the owner is, so. um,
Or if the entity is, if, we're not sure, I wasn't sure who the entity was. I know it's London, it's Legacy Life Distribution. I don't know what that is, and given that it's a lawsuit.
Yes, so whether somebody is in a lawsuit or not is not a aspect of permit review, generally speaking.
But once we've changed the designation of the property, it's changed and the new owner can come in and it would have the changed use designation. So
So if Berkeley bought Matina, would they then have they would, in effect, this building would be a distribution center for them to use however they want?
Well, again, when we're discussing what the potential recommended conditions of approval can be, I think it's reasonable to consider whether you would want to recommend any limits on expansion, on scope. You know, if it's a different type of product, although I think that's getting a little more granular necessarily than I'd recommend, but I'm just trying to say that whoever ends up owning whoever at the end of the day, that's not typically something that we consider.
I understand, although Fountain Life has different products than this did, if they end up with this, with the use of that building.
Right, which is, yeah, so, you know, if that's something you want to recommend as a condition of approval, it's certainly something that could be discussed. It's not something that's specified in our zoning code as to limitations on like what type of product you can distribute for the most part. Maybe, I don't know, like explosives notwithstanding.
Okay, can you talk then about the fuel station in the back?
There's no fuel tank that I'm aware of on the property. I mean,
Not on the property, I think it was proposed on the drawing.
oh, no, that's just a backup generator. That'll have a diesel fuel storage built into the generator.
Doesn't say,
1,470 gallon diesel generator.
it does say 1470 gallon diesel generator.
Yeah, and they're self-contained units. They have all the safeguards in place if there's a diesel leak to contain the diesel fuel so it doesn't get into the soil or doesn't contaminate anything. They're made by Cummins. It's a Cummins diesel generator that we're looking at putting in.
and is that generator, because you're gonna have this cooling
Yes,
activity going on and you want to make sure that
yeah, the generator is for backup and, you know, for the sub-zero freezers in case there's a power outage, the generators will kick in and keep the product where it needs to be.
Can I ask for one more description of what these products are, what these vials are? Are these medically approved vials? Are they somebody's formulation individually without medical approval? I don't know what it is.
We are FDA regulated, not non-biologic use material. So it's what we call a 351 product. So it is allowed, it has cosmetic and external use only approval. So that's what we could sell to both cosmetic companies and to medical companies who produce medical creams. They're regulated FDA products that don't go through those trials. Now in the laboratory, we have a research and development arm, and especially what we're looking at in Pittsburgh is that laboratory will be a portion of it would be developed for research and development for a FDA application for clinical trials in the future. But those are down the line. Of course, it's two different entities too. It's not related directly to the distribution center, but our products are bought by laboratories who are looking at doing research and development for treatments of inflammatory disease, autoimmune diseases, neurological diseases, and some cancers. But those are we sell those products as research only products to those individuals.
And going back to our, maybe the fundamental question, we're allowed to designate a subdivision of a property for a conditional use? You were not designating the property, we're designating a slice of it, a floor,
I mean,
or a portion of a floor,
that could be a recommendation.
but it's
you know,
even, it's allowed in
well,
our zone?
The proposal says 2,100 basically square feet is what they're asking for an approval.
Well, I don't know whether our zoning is such, this is just a question.
yeah, so
When we ask for conditional use of a piece of property, is it the property or is it a slice of that property? Is that permitted?
well, so that can be part of the discussion. Typically, when a use is approved, if there's no sort of specificity, of conditions of approval, then generally it would just run with the property, period. You know, notwithstanding, like if they had needed more parking or something, if they expanded, then that would just be an administrative review. But if it is recommended, approved by council and the town attorney finds it to be a reasonable condition, then, you know, you could recommend something. I mean, it's fairly open-ended in terms of, you know, you want to say as presented on the plan, you know, in the square footage presented on the plan to this scale, like that's kind of what we're trying to work out here.
We have a product, excuse me, a proposed use description, which is what I think we're reacting to. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
That says they would like to use, and you may need to clarify this also, 1,922 square feet on the second floor, which includes all these other rooms. That's all in the break room, the distribution, that's all in there. And 213 square feet in the first floor space for a reception area. So roughly 2,140 square feet. You're asking for approval for a conditional use for 2,140 square feet of this building.
Yes, in fact, I don't know, but the reception area is in the same location.
It's on the
as
second floor.
Distribution. I don't know if that's, yeah,
It's on the second floor.
Is it on the second floor?
Yeah.
Okay.
and this is a
It
self,
just says it's 213 square feet
Right.
separate from the 1,900.
yeah, it's actually included in the 19.2.
So it's a total of 1,922 square feet.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
This area is to be cordoned off from the rest of the building to have its own security. It's just, you know, access only by distribution staff. It is the reception area is for deliveries and shipping.
So there would be access to that or a limited
Yeah,
access.
so that
to
limited access space and then the rest of it would be part of the lockdown distribution area.
So the one comment I have is that the plan shows a loading space that is a typical parking space, and I believe our Saldo requires that a space for this type trucks, UPS and whatever, be 10 by 16 or 25, 10 by 25, not 9 by.
That's a change.
Did I read that wrong?
Doesn't sound wrong to me.
Okay.
I'd have to read it myself at the moment to be sure, but they're over part by a couple.
Yeah,
places,
yeah, no,
so,
it's-
you know.
You load in the back, right?
Yeah.
How did the trucks turn around currently? Do they turn around?
Yeah,
FedEx trucks?
the FedEx trucks do usually, I don't, honestly, I don't see them as often. They only come a few times a week, but yeah, Jim might be able to.
I mean, I'm not gonna handle truck.
These are
UPS
the
FedEx trucks.
Yeah, just curious how they maneuver around the site, get in and out.
Yeah, I mean, Legacy Medical Centers for Legacy Life, it's DBA Legacy Life, which is on the third floor.
They
They're,
come in.
you know, they're getting deliveries every day
Yeah,
and the trucks just pull in and they back up.
okay, yeah, so it looks like there's a little like wooden curb between that parcel adjacent to it, so they don't go out that way. They only enter and exit through the one entrance on site. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Does that driveway go all the way over to the road? I didn't drive it back.
Over here,
Front driveway.
Yeah, just go all the way over to the behind.
this one?
The one in the back of the building. Is it common usage across the way?
No,
Okay,
over here, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
It's the other two sites that have it.
yeah,
to the
okay. I
south.
wasn't sure how far it went.
Other comments?
Yeah, actually, so, yes, I understand in the permit request for the use of the building on the second floor, but it seems somewhat not really clear to me in the drawing. So are we approving the drawing set also including the generator? It said future use, so it wasn't clear to me what being asked.
We can operate, you know, this one, but we can operate, without, yeah. good.
Did you clarify just on note sheet,
I'm sorry?
which sheet you were referring to?
This would be the
A3,
proposed site plan with the 41 spaces. I don't see-
A3.
A3.
A3 and A3, A1, I'm sorry, is what I'm looking at. But it's just the request said, you know, it's clear about the use of the second floor, right? But then it refers to the drawing set proposed, right? So does that mean, so we're approving both the drawings and we're being asked to approve the drawings and the use of the second floor?
Think so? I don't think you'd be.
No, I think
Well,
we'd just
I
be the
mean,
commission.
anything that falls under the building code would be subject to a building permit, if that's what you're asking. Were they included the architectural, or I guess the building plan drawings, I assume, to verify the square footage
Yeah, to
of what you're proposing?
now.
Yeah,
For reference.
but I mean, that's exact uses of rooms and things like that, that's a little more granular than we typically get. Things like, diesel tanks, you know, in this case, because it's specifically linked to an energy source, it's permitted. But, you know, if they don't already have a permit for, I mean, you said it's been there already?
Yeah, no, we don't have any permits
Okay.
I mean, you know,
So-
once, if hopefully we get the conditional use approval and then we will pursue all permits and building
Yeah.
construction and our architect here will
So
follow through everything with that.
anything that's structural in the interior, if the tank is large enough to require, you know, review by the UCC, which it sounds like it probably is. Those things all run through the building official. But I think they've mostly provided this to illustrate and also to justify the parking proposal.
Okay, so yeah, so we're not saying yay or nay on their proposed site plan. They need to have to show it to us.
Well, I mean, I think in this case, it's helpful because of the questions like.
Documenting
loading,
parking and loading.
Or, you know, to generate, because with our last conditional use, we had
Yeah,
somebody that was using a diesel tank as fuel instead of, you know, energy generation.
yeah,
Um,
we just wanted to show that. You know, by getting this conditional use as a distribution center, we're not gonna be putting in big loading docks, we're not gonna have semi trucks coming in.
yeah,
We're not gonna have traffic issues on 19. We just wanted to show that it's basically gonna operate the way it's operating now. With parking spaces for all the uses of the building and access for a FedEx or a UPS truck to come in and make deliveries. And there's not gonna be no disruption in what's currently going on at the property as we speak. So that
Now-
was the purpose of these plans.
Okay.
if there was a particular concern where you really wanted to marry an aspect of the site plan to. Recommended approval of this conditional use, then again, that's like something that we could talk about in conditions of approval. Recommendations, otherwise, in absence of anything specific, we would just apply the standards of zoning and Saldo. You know, default basically to their site if we want to.
Because I assume with the material that you're storing and you need the backup generator for refrigerators.
Yes, it's for our ultra lows
Yeah,
refrigeration.
I just want, you know, not being, well, you said we could use for the second floor, but I can't use it now because you didn't approve this. I just wanna. Make sure we're not getting ourselves at that, you know, potential conundrum. there.
The storage tanks for a generator or just another energy source, those are. Whether those are permitted or not is not specifically connected to this use in our zoning code. That's just covered in a general section that's called unenclosed storage. So like anybody could theoretically, if they get the appropriate state permits. Have one of these, whether they're, you know, distribution or not. So. yeah, again, if there are any concerns, that's a good thing to discuss, but you don't have to approve that the tank is there in general as a part of this approval.
Yeah, no, I'd say the same thing that you were saying. I just make sure we're not implying that it's going to be approved. There's none
Oh.
of that at all. It's
Yeah,
just the conditional use on the second floor and you still got to go through your process for the rest of it.
Right.
Everything.
oh, I see where you, yes, yeah, you've got it.
Ian?
No, all my comments, thank you.
Are any of the products that you are warehousing or distributing flammable?
No, no, we won't have any. We will have the samples themselves, which are non-biological treatment samples, which are non-flammable. And we will have some dry ice, and those are the only two things that will, of regulatory that we will have.
What time frames during the day are you contemplating deliveries coming in at the earliest and shipments going out at the latest?
So since we ship a majority, almost everything on dry ice, we do FedEx overnight by 10 a.m. is typically what we request. So between 8 and 10 a.m., depending on where they're coming from. Going out, we usually have to have it out by 3:34, depending on the area and the pickup and where it's going. So those, because they usually get on the flights right away and they go overnight to their location. So we will probably steady that, but I think 10 a.m. is our latest arrival typically, and then our shipping will be probably before 4 p.m.
Thank you.
So it sounds like normal business hours,
Mhm.
within the window of normal business hours.
Yeah, I mean, we have, because again, we have to maintain integrity on temperature. It's very important that we do overnight first thing deliveries, and so they're usually cut off by 10 a.m.
Any other comments?
I just like to make one. My questions were not intended to draw you into a discussion on the legal, the lawsuit for the group and for you, but to look at that chain of ownership, tenancy, product. Given that I read through the lawsuit, it was just, I just wanted to make sure who we were dealing with and who was, okay. Anyway, I think I'd like to clear that up.
Is there any public comment other than what presentation has been made here?
Maybe we just have people for
Okay.
the application.
All that public.
All right. So we tentatively, at least on the agenda, have a motion to recommend the town council approve, at least as the discussion we've gone so far, a conditional use application, and we can ask for certain restrictions or conditions on that conditional use.
Yeah, so your options are, we do have the option of an additional month's meeting. If you would like to chew on it, come up with any recommendations, or it's also perfectly okay to take action on it at this meeting, but we won't be scheduling the public hearing until June, because we already wouldn't have been able to place ads for May by this time, and still give you guys up to 2 meetings. So we can have that discussion now,
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents, and my 2 cents is that if we're going to approve the conditional use, it would be restricted to the 1,922
22.
square
Square
feet.
feet.
It does not extend to the potential future lab in the first floor.
Well, the lab would just be an office use,
Yeah.
so, and that's the funny thing, this is small scale enough that if you had something like this where you're shipping stuff out as an accessory use to a lab, it's just a permitted use as an office. But
The
because,
lab's not there.
right, but
Right.
because the lab is not there, this is solely functioning as distribution, which is why
Right.
this is happening. So if the lab were to move in, this could basically be folded in as a distribution of the lab, as long as it does not generate an extreme level of traffic.
Lab doesn't seem like an office to me, but if that's the way it's,
It's the code.
you said if it would fold right in as an office. Am I misunderstanding what you just said?
Basically, yeah, like shipping samples, if they were doing the lab tests on site and then shipping them out for analysis or something like that.
And that would be the same category as an office?
Yeah.
Okay. Doesn't seem kosher to me, but what do I know?
What the code says.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth, that we limit it to the 1922 square feet as proposed. And till we get a sense and see what this is all about, to be honest with you.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to also request that the change be the plan be modified to show a 10 by 25 loading space rather than the current. In the rear, meeting the requirements of the Salvo.
And I think that was agreed to.
Yes.
But we can add it as a condition. Any other conditions that need to be
Yeah, okay.
applied?
I would recommend that the hours of shipment, both coming in and going out, say 7 AM to 7 PM. So that way
Limits.
it doesn't turn into an all-night operation.
And we will always be limited to FedEx's hours, and that would definitely not be a problem for us.
Okay.
So we're saying 7 to 7.
7 AM, 7 PM is the outer limits of the,
104.20. Parking and loading section. I can, okay.
okay, so it's 3 things so far. It's the 1922 square feet is proposed. It's the space in the back adjusted to the proper size. And 7 AM, 7 PM. Conditional use for operation shipping. Any other issues or comments or? And can I get a motion to approve it with those conditions?
I'll move it.
So move to second
Second.
from Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No opposition, so at least through the planning commission, now it has to go before the town council.
That would be June 24th will be the hearing. Then typically within the next month, they'll take action on that unless any sort of major controversy were to arise. So we will see you guys back here in about a month.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, number 2 on the agenda is the resubmission of the Bowler Plan. Preliminary final subdivision land development application on Willoughby Road. We have a presentation. And if you would, at least for my benefit and hopefully the others, I've kind of lost track of where this was. It's been months.
Yeah, what would we change?
Well, so I'll tease it because I don't know if all of us were actually here the
Yeah,
last
we
time.
probably
that we
weren't.
saw this. So this is a subdivision. This is a subdivision that is being proposed off of Mr. Bowler's property. He has a parcel that fronts on both Harmony as well as Willoughby. So this is on the Harmony side. From what I understand, just has a very large piece of land and you'd like to get rid of some of that. Yes, yes.
Correct.
So, 4 individual lots are being proposed. There were some, I think, issues working out with the sewer tap in, how they were gonna be able to get to the line, that's already there last time, and that was taking enough time to work out with MTSA that we were on quite a few extensions, and we kind of thought it would be better to just take a pause basically, rather than you guys maybe be put in a position where you have to take action when they were still working. So they pulled back. Now they're back again.
Wasn't there some drainage, some stormwater also related to the driveways that needed to be addressed?
Yeah, I believe we have like trench drains at the bottom of the
Yeah, That's,
driveway.
I just remember that was one of the.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
addressed at the end of the last
Okay.
submission. They added the trench drains and they have a sump sizing table, since they don't know the exact square footage of what will go there. They've arranged if this size impervious provide this size sump.
Maybe it would be good for Kelly to just talk a little bit about the comments that are in the review letter, because this one's quite a bit shorter than the last one that we had seen. There's actually not really that much technical going on in there, huh?
No, yeah, I had a few questions, but so we held a pre-application meeting to review the status a while ago of where everything was with this, because last time they submitted, we had some questions just about utility serviceability. Who was responsible for what? Would it be on the developer or would it be on the individual owners of the lots once they're purchased? So those were still this outstanding questions that we had from the last round of submission. And in addition, there was also questions regarding who would be responsible for repairing Harmony Drive itself. So we did meet out in the field with Public Works to review what they would want to see as requirements. And Jeff at the time had provided some areas that he would require them to restore that Dan has showed on the plan now to indicate that this is the limits of pavement restoration that's required. So it's not like a Swiss cheese road, was the term Dan Dazaroff used whenever this was in for the first time. So those were some of the outstanding items that we had, and that was separate from the sanitary issues that they had to get addressed that RJ had mentioned, kind of held things up a little bit. So this time around, a lot of our questions and comments have been addressed. And since we got our letter out, I know this is the first meeting here, Dan has submitted a few comments, or excuse me, a few items that he has also addressed on the plan. So it is definitely more aligned with what we would want to see at this stage. I did have a few questions. Are there any questions for me right now that help at least kind of explain from where we were to where we are? Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I wanted to just clarify one thing. I saw a note added, which this is not on the plans that you have. This is a new submission we got late last week. So I just wanted to ask here. So electric in existing conditions is on the far side of Harmony Drive. I saw a note that poles would be placed between lots 1 and 2 as well as lots 3 and 4. Is the intent for those new terminal poles to be placed by the developer or by the individual lot owners?
They'll be placed by the developer, I
Okay.
believe, so that'll be kind of before individual lots go in.
Okay, so it would be an overhead. Have you communicated with the
Yeah,
electric
so-
company on that?
Chris Sinker, who
Yeah.
the developer, he had a meeting with Duquesne Light
Great.
out on site, and they kind of said that was sort of the best most cost efficient, kind of easiest way to do it for everybody was to do one overhead pole that would do below ground. One between lot and 2 that would do below ground electric to serve lot and 2.
Great.
And then one between 3 and 4 that would do below ground
Okay.
electric. So there's an overhead line that would be connecting, a pole on each of those 2 property lines.
And then each individual owner would be responsible from taking it from that pole underground to their house.
Yeah.
Okay,
But the pole would be
Yeah.
in, before.
Okay.
And this is already a neighborhood that has above ground utilities, okay.
mhm.
They're just on the other side of the street.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I wanted to hear, just to make sure that there wouldn't be a situation if like lot 1 came in and was ready to develop, that they would be responsible for paying the
Yeah.
full price
The
of that
poles are paid
installation.
by that.
Okay.
Before anyone would come in.
Okay, I'll have like a minor comment just to clarify that and a note that was added. And then, so I think it's pretty clear now. Regarding, the gas and electric now, and as well as water. And then for storm, so right now, the plan indicates that there's going to be new tap-ins for each of these lots. Is the intent for the developer to install a clean out? Is that where it's going to end?
I think that would probably make the most sense is
Okay.
to do the tap
Put the clean out
clean out.
at the property line and the residents take it from where they need to go from there. Okay, yeah, I,
Cause that would kind of bring it into the property.
Yes.
Out of the paving and sort of take care of all that again before any
Okay.
individual lot owners come in.
okay. So those are really the big items that I had, just to make sure it was clear who's gonna do what. And if I think we're at a point where we can just make a few clarifications on the plans, and I would, recommend we do it both on the subdivision plan, just so that's recorded and kind of public information for everyone, as well as the plans that you have supporting it. The other comments that we have in our letter are pretty minor. And I know that in the submission, he's addressed most of the comments that we did have, so.
Wasn't there a question about road right of way on this subdivision?
I believe there was a time when the road was thought to be widened
Yeah. I
and
think
that
it
was taken out.
I think it was brought up and then I think it was kind of dropped because, yeah, we didn't want to widen the road and then kind of have it go back down
Mhm.
once it left this stretch of the property to, yeah, to a smaller,
So the right of way is staying as.
staying at.
That's 33.
Is, you mentioned that there's gonna be two poles
Mhm.
and then underground to each of two homes off of those two poles. Is it possible to have one pole in the middle of all four? And then, you
I
eliminate
think it
one
was
pole
discussed, I
and one
think it was,
overhead?
I think it was a Duquesne Light. I wasn't at the meeting and of course Chris Sinker, who was at the meeting, couldn't be here tonight. I think they just decided that in terms of, yeah, cost efficiency and maybe not spreading out, lines from one spot. That, to interfere with other
You have that
utilities or.
Easements.
Easements for the other property
For the
owners
other
to
two,
access.
I think
Yeah.
putting one on the
Yeah.
property line and just going
Yeah,
straight
okay.
to that point, I think they said was the easiest.
I,
way.
I'm just a big fan of underground utilities and fewer poles and overhead utilities.
Mhm.
It just seemed like we could cut it in half, but I see your point, because of the easements.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kelly, you're fairly satisfied is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think we've worked through in the past months to get to a pretty conclusive
Okay.
and on the same page with things. So it's just more cleanup at this point to ensure that it's clear in 5 years from now, if we're looking at this, who's responsible for what.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've had, virtual meetings, we've had on-site meetings. I think that really helped, kind of clarify, what needed to be shown in terms of responsibilities and, requirements. So.
Comments over here? I'll ask the public comment. I bet we don't have any. Unless you want to. I'm guessing you're
I
in
think it's
favor.
all for it.
You're in favor?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I get a vote.
No, I'm afraid not. All right, can we get a motion to recommend that the town council or that we approve the Boulder Plan preliminary final subdivision land development application as submitted? Motion?
I move contingent on resolving all the remaining comments.
Well, of course, yeah.
It's.
And I'll second.
Okay, so John and now first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? No opposition. Maybe your plan will go forward.
Thank you very much, everyone.
So would you guys? Let me ask this, Kelly, would you guys be able to get a review letter out before the 20th is what we're having?
Yeah.
That's not this Memorial Day.
I can send an email tomorrow with the, so we've gone through your revised plan with the outstanding items that I have. I'll review it with Dan Dazaroff. Get that to you, and then if you can just submit a kind of clean package,
Sure.
then we'll issue our letter.
Yeah. And I
Before
mean,
the 20th.
even if there are a couple little items, I think because we're at the point where there's not really anything material that's going to be changing, wouldn't be the end of the world if we had a contingent on satisfying the comments, like we've done that before when this level of commentary is remaining. So I mean, it's up to you guys if you wanna, if it's all gonna be cleaned up on the 20th, great. If you still wanna go, we have a couple little things to still take care of, then we can propose it as a,
We'll clean up as much as we can,
Mhm.
seeing what's left.
In that case, I guess we'll probably see you on May 20th, back here.
Sure.
Okay. Good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, the third item on the agenda. And I'll need some guidance on what's going on here. Tattoo piercing parlor zoning ordinance amendment discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is one that was sent down by town council. I'll give you a little bit of background on the whole thing. So we have a resident that currently operates a tattoo parlor in the city. Lives in the area, would like to, I'm not sure if it's a satellite or just moving the whole thing, but either way, wants to open a location in a building that is in the MU district. As the zoning ordinance is currently written, we have them limited to the MC district, and we also have some pretty significant setbacks on the basis of how close a lot is to certain uses such as hospitals, churches, other institutional uses, things like that. That was part of the template language, you know. It was something that didn't really come up that much. Nobody seemed to have very strong feelings about it when we were in the rewrite process. However, these residents came, you know, expressed that they really have an interest in this space, and they talked to Councilman Jack Casey, who was their ward representative. And after some conversations with him, you know, basically decided to support introducing an amendment to broaden pretty significantly, I mean, allow them in all of the mixed use districts. As well as remove that setback, that lot setback requirement, which is pretty intense and maybe challenging to meet. In several of the properties in town, once we, you know, actually did an analysis. On a granular level of it. So, I think that this is, at least from what I'm getting from the council, you know, council members, I should say. Is that although this is not really something that had any special attention drawn to it during the rewrite. It's definitely. The way that it is currently written, it was treated as more of what we would call, you know, potentially objectionable use. It's not objectionable to everybody, but you know, it's something that kind of was treated a little more industrially. And the council members are saying, we don't really see this particular use that way. And, you know, basically now that it's something that is of interest to the community, we think that we should more broadly allow these. Just not really how they're seeing this type of business anymore. So they've sent us this amendment down. The public hearing is going to be that second June meeting. So we have both this meeting as well as the next to discuss it. Again, perfectly allowed to take action tonight if you would like, but you don't have to. You have up to 2 meetings to discuss.
So there's not a specific location identified?
Well, they
It's
have,
in the-
there's an office building currently.
and where is
Multi-use building rather. It's in the MU district, so it's up on the flats. It's up in the flats.
Like, can you narrow it down? I'm trying to think.
10-4-30?
What's it next to or near or across from? or-
Oil change place.
Yeah, I'll have
Cactus
to-
Place near it, and then a car dealer across the street.
You've identified the whole flat.
I was gonna say, that's just the flats.
Pretty much there. That's what's there.
Yeah, it's, I picked, I think, the wrong side of the street, but it is. Sorry, 10-4-31. Very highway, I don't know if you know where Albemarle Road is, it's immediately north of Sheets Ford.
Oh, so it's in the shopping center where Monticello's is.
Yeah.
That shopping center.
Oh, that strip center with
It's
Monticello?
it's right below. Like,
Oh, right below
it's
the other
fully
one adjacent. Okay.
those 2 businesses. The proposal is just to expand the use to be permitted to all of the mixed
Sure.
use districts. Council did not have a preference to restrict it from any of those, so that's how the amendment was written. But the particular property that's being inquired about is in the MU district in the flats.
So it kind of, from my perspective, there is some definite logic to expanding the use in the MU district. Given the intent of the district and the types of uses that other uses that are permitted in that district. The MN district, however, that's a neighborhood district that is supposed to meet the daily needs of the residential population. I would have a lot of difficulty recommending it be a permitted use in that district. Town center, you know, and the corridor, that is, you know, open for discussion. I was also really surprised to find out that Pennsylvania does not in any way regulate or deal with tattoo parlors. There is no health department permit, there is no certificate, there is no oversight, which is a little disconcerting. The one thing that is regulated is that no minors are allowed to have a tattoo without a certified, verified, letter from a guardian or a parent. So that being the case, I'm uncomfortable with totally wiping out the section that addresses setbacks from things. And I would I personally would feel more comfortable with the setbacks related to schools and parks and whatever still being in there for the use. Take residential hospitals, you know, that's probably where the majority of the residentials, the majority of the concern in being able to find a site. But if minors are of concern, that would be my recommendation.
My general reaction is I'm not a big fan, but that's neither here nor there. And therefore I would not want to relax these restrictions too aggressively so that we see more and more and more of this use. Any comments? I don't know, if we don't have to act tonight, I don't know, maybe,
Like here's public comment. If
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
public comment.
Were there any other alternatives to addressing the desire for that tattoo parlor in that location beyond this grand?
Well, it could be approved with a conditional use, right?
Well, not in this district.
No, not in the
And
district.
I don't think.
They're
it's-
permitted.
Yeah.
in
They're
the-
permitted.
Yeah.
They're not conditional.
So I mean, I guess that's, a recommendation that you guys could make for the ordinance, if that's, for example, something that you wanted town council to consider.
But we already know that if the conditional use does not have any criteria attached to it.
Well,
Yeah.
right, but I mean, that would kind of be
Yeah,
part
I'm
of,
just saying, if we wipe out the,
Right. I mean, they have currently an application, a use variance application before the zoning hearing board that has basically been tabled and put on ice while this process carries out. Don't want to go into too much detail about that since that is an open appeal case in front of the zoning hearing board. But I'll just put out there that the criteria for being approved for a use variance is basically you
pretty tough.
have to show that the property in question cannot reasonably be used for any of the permitted uses in that district. Considering it's an office building, an office is a permitted use that maybe is
And it's
not a
unoccupied,
viable.
right?
Yes, I mean, right, yeah, so, while that was going on, the residents spoke to the council member, and town council felt like this was maybe a more viable path forward for this issue. So here we are.
So council has already had some discussion on this?
Yes, they approved this format of the amendment to send out to you all.
For our recommendation.
It just seems
They
we got
approved
ourselves.
it. Well, our recommendation back to them was we already approved. to send us.
Let's,
Well, it's the process, it's the procedure.
Yeah,
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 yes, that's
procedure.
yeah, I know.
typical. They generate the amendment, they approve what's at least written to the point where you guys have the, chance to have a discussion and provide your recommendations, so.
It just seems like we're driven to the extremes. No, because of here's a process, no, because it's too broad. And it would seem there ought to be some sort of a third way, so to speak.
Well, that's for our discussion.
Yeah, because this is how.
Yeah.
This is how they send it down,
And that's why I was saying that I would find it difficult to recommend that the use be permitted in the MN district. The other three, it's permitted in one. The other two, fine. And I don't believe that it would be too onerous to leave the stipulation in that it not be located within 250 feet of schools and playgrounds and things like that. Not residences, not churches, not hospitals, but just things where minors would be typically hanging out.
Where do minors hang out these days?
Sheets,
In their bedrooms.
sheets and Chick-fil-A.
I do see a lot of them at Sheets, that is
Yeah.
extremely true.
Well, then when will the public comment on this? The public June?
Yeah,
And
and we had them come out at the zoning hearing for it was entirely positive, but presumably also invited by the applicants at that time.
Sure. But I agree with you. I think we ought to wait
Yeah.
in here, see
I agree.
what other comments that might emerge.
Yeah, so you guys. Well, I guess you could choose to not give your recommendation before the hearing, but. The town council, has like a set period of time before they.
Right.
that you guys get to weigh in on, they hold the hearing. They will not be voting until the end of July at the earliest.
Okay, so we will have time to, at the next meeting, let's see, this is May, so
Definitely the next meeting,
at
yes.
the June meeting to discuss further comments like Ann just made and look at this with more detail and.
No.
Okay, that would be my recommendation. However, procedurally, we want to take it to that level.
Yeah.
Are
Okay.
there any other situations similar to, other uses in the township?
So.
Yeah, exceptions for,
In our old code, we did not define tattoo or piercing parlor as a separate use, so frankly, I never had one that even came in to inquire about that, so I would have to really think about how I would have handled it back then. I'm told that there is a beauty salon down the road that is also performing tattoos and began doing that prior to the adoption of our current code. So in theory, they're grandfathered.
Because we didn't define it
Correct.
previously.
Right, it wasn't something that we said you can't do or you
Yeah.
can't do here or anything really, so I can't really, I can't tell you beyond seeing an Instagram. Where else people may be doing this, but yeah, it was just something that was not regulated, right?
and it came out because the potential owner of this tattoo place wants to do it the right way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
okay.
they called and, we told them we limited it to this district and, thus the petition began.
Okay, yeah, that's how it works.
Okay, so procedurally, what do we need to do to,
I would say table.
all right, we need a motion to table? Can I have a motion to table this till next meeting?
Motion to table.
Okay, and Sean second,
Yep. So, yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the agenda is the approval of the April 12, 2024 minutes. Are there any comments or edits or changes that someone would like to present?
Public comment before that, or?
No.
No, that's after.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
No.
when it's a table, we're not taking action, so.
No, I meant public comment, general public.
Oh, general, yeah, that's a good.
Okay, sorry.
That'll be next. Sounds like none. So can we have a motion to approve the April 2nd, 2024 minutes?
I'll go on this side.
Way to go. All right. Second?
No, second.
Yeah, someone on this side. There we go. Sean again. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are
Aye.
approved.
I'd say.
You're abstaining?
Cause you were.
You went
Yeah.
there.
Absolute without.
It's okay,
Okay,
go
well.
on.
The last item is for general public comment. And since we have a lady in the audience, I'm guessing we have some public comment.
Okay. Hi,
I like to come with paper, so you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It'll take a moment to get it past. But my name is Ellen Wright, 9635 Old Paper Road, Allison Park, PA 15101. This is the resolution that was passed in regards to item number 3. And I have a procedural concern with it, and it probably applies more to council than to you, but since it's been sent to you, I'll share my procedural concern with you. At the bottom, I have it circled.
Excuse me, we
Some of them
have.
are stapled and some of them are front to back.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right.
And somebody forgot to put
You want to share?
Oh, okay.
two-sided
I didn't
copy
see
when they were printing. I don't know who
This
that
is
was, but it
two-sided.
might have been you.
This is two seconds.
So, yeah, if it doesn't have a staple, it's two-sided.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
So at the bottom of the first page, regardless if it's stapled or not, it says section 1, it says attached proposed ordinance. In the agenda, there was no attached proposed ordinance. If you look at the agenda on, which I don't have with me, but it has 30 pages and page 28 is a report from the planning commission. Page 29 and page 30 are the resolution. And so there's no attached ordinance when they pass this resolution.
Sure, I've got the agenda that we have publicly posted online on screen share just for our reference. Here it is, page 29 for the resolution.
Yeah, and if you go to,
And there is no ordinance attached.
there's no ordinance attached to it.
Interesting. Well, it's out there, I'll tell you that. It's on the bulletin board.
So.
And the impact of this is what?
Whether or not something is included in an online packet has no legal bearing. What does have legal bearing is whether it is duly advertised in a newspaper and sent to the Allegheny County Law Library. That very certainly has happened because I did that personally.
But, and I guess
Or
I'm,
excuse me, I shouldn't say the law library, the copy of the ordinance is on file with either the newspaper of record or the law library, and we file it with the newspaper of record.
and your point obviously is that it was not attached. Did you try to look it up or find it otherwise, or what was your point in bringing this up? Other than there's obviously a procedural oversight.
Yeah, why did I want to bring it up? Because I didn't know where you were when you were going to be discussing it tonight.
Okay.
And I wanted to be aware that there was a procedural oversight here and that right, so that if a decision's being made, I would like to know where that is, that it had, where the reference is, that it has no legal bearing, that it's not attached to the agenda, or it's not, if it says it's attached to the resolution and it's not, and you say it has no,
I would
Bearing.
encourage you to review the municipalities planning code, which sets out
Okay.
requirements for.
Okay,
advertising
and what-
for
what-
ordinance amendments.
what section would you refer me to?
I would recommend that you do your own research.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. My other comment would be that when zoning things are being referred to, it'd be nice to have a zoning map that one could identify what different parts of the community we're referring.
Isn't there one online?
Well,
Yeah.
let's find out, because I better double check.
There is one online, but you don't have, when you're discussing it here, we don't, some of us may not have access to the online copy. I use the one online.
Yeah,
There is one online.
There is one
Yeah,
online,
There's one online.
but
Yeah,
there's no,
I looked at this
in this
morning for the-
particular room, there's no copy, and it would be nice to have a copy of the map.
Obviously, it's no longer there.
Yeah, it's
That's
been a
a-
long time.
Yeah.
There's a zip code map where there was around the corner for the bathrooms, but I don't even remember the last time I saw a zoning map in here.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm thinking of
I-
the zip code map. I don't know.
It's been a while, so.
Well, I'll say that I sympathize with you. I'm a paper person. I like to have a paper in front of me when I'm looking at something. But I've had to adapt to the online world, which is not my favorite, but that's the only place we got it right now, as I understand it.
Right, I appreciate that. I think that like as a community, like so that when people are, and maybe there are more people here at council, but when people are discussing the different zoning parts, nobody really has a reference as to what is being discussed, especially with the new zoning codes.
Well, I wish I had a better answer for that, but it is
Okay.
online.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Well, 5 minutes is out, that's
Oh,
fine.
yes.
No, there's no- All right, thank you. Okay, are we then to the adjournment portion?
think-
Can we have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? Now, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We are adjourned.
Can I raise a procedural question? It may not be procedural.